Integrated Math 3. This is assignment 2.03. It's on polynomial division. It was assigned Monday, March the 1st. The due date I had set was this, but we're going to change that to Monday, March the 8th. All right, and the problems. There's a lot of problems, and they're very repetitive. And each problem you need to do in two different ways. So I'm going to cut the problems down. So do problems 1 through 6. And 11 through 14. And the rest you can do for extra credit. Okay, so that's your assignment for this. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1. So you're going to do each problem two ways. Once the long division way and once the synthetic way, which is much quicker. And by doing it both of those ways, you can check your work. You should get the same answer both times. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this one up. So it's this polynomial. It's a third degree polynomial. It's x to the third divided by x plus 10. So let's go ahead and set that up. Okay, and that's what it would look like when you set it up in standard long division form. So let's review what the 4 steps are to division. First, you divide. Second, you multiply. Third, you subtract. And fourth, you pull down. And then you repeat those 4 steps until you're done with the problem. So you'll see what those mean as we get into this. So the first thing we're going to do is the divide step. And you're going to divide x into 7x to the third. And the way to do that is just think of it backwards. What do you have to multiply x by to get 7x to the third? Well, you obviously have to multiply it by a 7. So I'm going to put a 7 right here. And then x times what gives you x to the third? Well, you're going to need x squared. So x squared times x gives you x to the third. So 7x squared times x is 7x to the third. Now the reason I wrote it over here is because you have columns. This is the x to the third column. This is the x squared column. This is the x column. And this is the column with just numbers without an x right there. So when I multiply 7x squared times x, then that's the multiply step. Then I put the result down here, and it's 7x to the third. So this term and this term should always be exactly the same. Now what you're getting ready to do is do the third step, which is subtract. So I'm going to put a minus sign here, open a parenthesis, and now that you've done 7x squared times x to give you 7x to the third, now you do 7x squared times 10. So that's going to be 7 times 10 is 70, so it's going to be plus 70. And then the x squared just gets carried down. Since there's no x in that term there, it's just x squared. And we're going to close that parenthesis. Okay, so be careful here now. You're subtracting both of these. That means it's going to be minus 7x to the third, but it's also minus 70x squared. So remember that negative sign distributes to both of those. So once you do the subtraction, this term will always disappear. It always goes away, that first term. There's never an exception to that rule in long division of polynomials. Now 74 minus 70 is going to be 4. And then the variable and exponent simply get carried down here like that. Okay, so that's the subtract step. You just did a subtraction of both of these terms from these two terms. Now the pull down step, you're going to take the 35x and you're going to pull it down. Okay, and then in some methods, and the way I was taught, you pull everything down, the minus 50, but you don't need that yet. So let's not pull that down until we need it. And let me correct that to 35x. So now I go back and I repeat the process over. So x goes into 4x squared. Well, how many times? Well, in other words, what do you have to multiply x by to get 4x squared? Well, you have to multiply by a 4. 4 times x, 4. And then you have to multiply by another x. X times x would be x squared. So 4x times x would be 4x squared. Okay. So we're going to come down here and we're going to open a parenthesis, put a minus sign, and put the 4x squared inside. And now 4x times 10 is going to be 4 times 10 is 40. X. Boom. Okay. And now that was the multiply step. Now you're back to the subtract step again. So these first two terms that we said always just disappear. I'm not even going to bother to write the 0 there. They always go away. 4x squared minus 4x squared. This is going to be 35x minus 40x. If you do that, you're going to get negative 5x. Okay, so that's the subtract step. Now we're back down to step 4 again. Pull down. So you're going to pull down the negative 50. And then you're going to go back to the divide step. X goes into negative 5x. Well, it goes in negative 5 times. Because negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Again, open a parenthesis, and don't forget, that's not your subtraction sign. That's a negative 5x. You got to put another minus sign out there. So negative 5 times x is negative 5x, and negative 5 times 10 is negative 50. That was your multiply, and now your subtract step. So negative 5x minus negative 5x, that becomes plus 5x. Negative 5x plus 5x is 0, so that goes away. And negative 50 minus negative 50, or negative 50 plus 50, is also going to be 0. So the entire subtraction gives us a 0. And so that means there's no remainder. We're done with the problem because we just processed our last term there, the negative 50. So we're done. So there's your answer right there. 7x squared plus 4x minus 5. Now we're going to do it using synthetic division, and we're going to see if we get the same answer. We should. It's the same problem. This is just a different way to do division, and a much shorter and easier way. You just have to remember a few things about the steps. First of all, you take this second term in the divisor, that's the 10, and you change it to a negative. Don't ask why, you just do. Just remember the process, okay? The whys of some of this is beyond really what we're teaching in here. We're just teaching you how to do it. If you major in math in college, you'll learn the why it works, okay? Now you're going to draw an upside down division bracket like this. And you're going to take each of these coefficients, 70, 74, 35, and negative 50. And you're going to write them up here without the x's, without any x's. So it's going to be 7, 74, 35, and negative 50. Okay? The next step is you're going to take this first term here, this first number here, and actually just pull it down and write it there. Now you're going to multiply negative 10 times 7, and that's going to give you negative 70. And now what you're doing is you're adding. You're going to add everything in this line, these two lines together. So it's 74 plus negative 70, which is effectively 74 minus 70, and that's going to give you 4. Now negative 10 times 4 is negative 40. 35 plus negative 40 is 35 minus 40. That's going to give you negative 5. Negative 10 times negative 5 gives you positive 50. And negative 50 plus 50 is going to give you 0. Okay, so that last term is always going to be your remainder, so there is no remainder. Now what you do is you look at the order or the degree of this polynomial. It's a third order. It's x to the third. So you go one down from that to x to the second. And then place each of these as the coefficient. So I start off with x to the second. That's what I start with. And the 7 is the coefficient. Now I'm down to x. And that's going to be the coefficient. Now I'm down to no x's, just nothing. And so that's going to be the number that goes there, negative 5. and there is no remainder. So this is the product, or the quotient is what it's called in division. This is the quotient of the division is that, and you notice it's the same as we got up there. So it's a way to check your work. Is you should get the same answer both ways. Obviously this one's a lot faster and easier, but for this assignment you need to do this one as well. Okay? All right. Let's keep going. Okay, so try to learn one step at a time as you do these, and if you do that, you'll be in good shape. So we're going to write this as a long division problem. Okay, n minus 6, and it goes into that. All right, so we get started first with our division step, divide, so n into n to the third. So what do you have to multiply n by to get n to the third? Well, that's going to be n squared. N to the second times n to the first. Remember the principles, n to the second times n to the first, and what that gives you is n raised to the, you add these two. 2 plus 1, you don't multiply them, you add them. That equals n to the third. Okay, that's that number there. So this, n squared times n, gives you n to the third, so I'm going to write that here. I'm going to subtract and open a parenthesis. And now n squared times negative 6 is negative 6n squared. Okay, so that's your multiply step. This times this gives you this, and this times this gives you this. Now your subtract step. Remember we said the first term always disappears. N to the third minus n to the third is gone. Now you have a double negative sign here, so it becomes a plus. So that becomes plus 6n squared. So 2n squared plus 6n squared gives you 8n squared. So that's your subtraction step right there. And now the pull down step, you pull this down to here, minus 42n. Okay, so that was your pull down. Now you go back to division. What do you have to multiply n by to get 8n squared? Well, obviously you need an 8, so we're going to add 8. And n times what gives you n squared? Well, that's going to be n, 8n. So 8n times n gives you 8n squared. All right, now we're going to go ahead and do that multiplication here. You get 8n squared. We put our subtraction sign with an open parenthesis there. Now 8n times negative 6, so what's 8 times negative 6? It's negative 48. And then the n times, there's nothing there, so it's just n. And you close the parenthesis. Alright, so you have 8n squared minus 8n squared, this goes away. And now this negative negative equals a positive. So it's negative 42n plus 48n. Do that on your calculator if you need to. So you start at negative 42 and you go in the positive direction 48 spaces. That's going to give you 6n. Like that. So that's the subtraction step. Okay, and next we do our last pull down here, the negative 36. Alright, so n times what will give you 6n? And the answer is 6. So I'm going to put a 6 right up here. 6 times n is 6n. And then we open the parenthesis and put a negative sign because we got to do a subtraction. And 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. And we're going to close the parenthesis and subtract now. So 6n minus 6n goes away. Negative 36 minus negative 36, negative negative is a positive, so negative 36 plus 36 is 0. So you end up with nothing at the end of the problem for a remainder. You're done with your last term, so this is your answer. It's n squared plus 8n plus 6. Like that, okay? Now synthetic. See if you can remember how to do the synthetic. Pause, go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so you're going to take this second number in the divisor, the negative 6, and change the sign and make it positive 6. Draw an upside down division bracket, and then write each of these coefficients over. So that front of the end of the third is a 1, then a 2, then a negative 42, and then a negative 36. There you go. Okay? All right. You pull down the first term, so a 1 just comes straight down. 6 times 1 is 6. This is an addition here, remember, of everything. So 2 plus 6 is 8. 6 times 8 is 48. Negative 42 plus 48 is going to be 6. 6 times 6 is 36. Negative 36 plus 36 is 0. So here's your coefficients. It's an n to the third order. It's a third order, so our first term is going to be 1 less than that, so it's going to be n squared. There's the coefficient 1. You can write it if you want. You don't have to. Plus 8, and you just decrease that by 1. 8n. Plus 6. So n to the second, n to the first, and then no n. And then there's no remainder. So this is your answer for this, and you can see it. They match. They should always match. This is the same problem, same division problem. All right, let's go. Let's do 3 and 4. All right. Again, at this point, see how much you can do on your own. You've got to practice it on your own. Only watch me if you need to. Okay, so I'm going to pause here, give you a chance to turn off the video and see if you can do this one by yourself. See how far you can go. If you can't do it all by yourself, identify where you got stuck. That's what you always want to do. Okay, where, not just I don't get it or I don't know how to do it, but where are you getting stuck? Okay, I'm going to get going with this one. So it's x minus 4. Okay, there's the problem right there. So x goes into x to the third. What do you have to multiply x by to get to x to the third? And the answer is x squared. So again, I'm going to put that up in my square column. Not over here, but in the square column because it's an x squared. X squared times x, we've done this one before, is x to the third. Now that, once you do that, you put that in the cube column because that's where it has to be. So I'm going to put my negative sign, open a parenthesis. So now x squared times negative 4 is negative 4x squared. And that goes in the square column. And I'm going to close the parentheses. So that was the multiply step. Now the subtract step. This always goes away. And this is a negative negative, so it's positive. So it's plus 4x squared. So x squared plus 4x squared is 5x squared. Again, negative negative turns into a positive. Okay, that's the subtract step. Now the pull down step. So you're going to put minus 19x right there. And now we're ready to start all over again to do the divide step. How many times does x divide into 5x squared? Or what do I need to multiply x by to get 5x squared? Well, obviously I need a 5. And I also need another x. X times x would be x squared. So it's going to be 5x. Okay, so that's the divide step. Now multiply. 5x times x is 5x squared. Subtraction sign, open a parenthesis. 5x times negative 4 is negative 20x. Okay, now we do the subtraction. The first term always disappears, 5x squared minus 5x squared. Now this is again a double negative, so that's going to be a plus sign. So it's negative 19 plus 20. And that will give you just 1x. We'll just write it as x though. Negative 19 plus 20 gets to 1, and that's 1x. We'll just write it as x. Okay, and now the pull down, the last pull down here goes to there. It's negative 4. Okay, so what do you multiply x by to get x? And that should be pretty easy. Sometimes it tricks students because I said, yeah, I don't know, what do I x? What do I do? It's just plus 1. 1 times x is x. So I'm going to put that here. Subtraction and open a parenthesis. And 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. Close the parenthesis. Again, the negative sign gets distributed, so this becomes a plus 4. So x minus x goes away. And negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So again, we have no remainder. So there's your final answer. It's x squared plus 5x plus 1. Let's come over, pause the video, see if you can do the synthetic by yourself, okay? All right, so I'm back. So we're going to take this number and flip the sign, make it a positive 4. We're also going to flip the bracket. Flip the sign, flip the bracket. So it's the coefficient in front of x to the third is 1. In front of x squared is also 1. This one's a negative 19. And this one's a negative 4. Okay? And it is an addition that you're doing down here. So you're going to simply bring this first 1 down to there. 4 times 1 is 4. So 1 plus 4 is 5. 4 times 5 is 20. Negative 19 plus 20 is going to give you 1. 4 times 1 is 4. And negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So it again, x to the third, so that means our answer is going to start with x to the second. You subtract 1 from the exponent to get the highest exponent. And there's a 1 there. You can write it. I'll just write it lightly. You don't have to write a coefficient of 1. Plus 5, and then you take 1 off the exponent, so it's 5x. And then finally, this is plus 1. Okay, so it's x squared plus 5x plus 1. It's the same answer you got here. Okay, so that's that. All right, move on to number 4. So you're going to do 5 and 6 on your own. All right, I'm not going to do those for you. But learn from these first 4. It should be enough to get this concept down. Okay, here we go. But still, try to do this on your own first. Okay, at this point, some of you can probably do one of these, the entire thing, in about 2 to 3 minutes. It won't take you that long. If you're not there yet, that's okay. I'm going to do this one with you. Okay, here we go. R minus 4 third. By the way, at this point you might be asking, do these things always have to start off with something to the third power? No, they don't. If you're going to have anything other than a binomial like this as the divisor, there's some complications involved in doing this. But we're not. We're just going to deal with divisor that's a binomial like that. First order right there because it's r to the first power. Okay, here we go. What do you have to multiply r by to get 3r to the third? Think about it. Pause the video if you need to. You have to multiply by 3 in order to get that 3, and then it's r squared. R squared times r is r to the third. So that's our divide step. Now we're going to multiply. So 3r squared times r is 3r to the third. And 3r squared times negative 4 is negative 12r squared. So there's that's our multiplication. Now our subtraction. These two always disappear. And it's a negative negative, so it becomes a plus 12. So negative 9 plus 12 is going to give you plus 3. 3r squared. Okay. Now you do a pull down. It's negative 14r. So r times what gives you 3r squared? Well, it has to have a 3 in it. And then it's got to have another r. R times r is r squared. So 3r times r is 3r squared. Okay, and 3r times negative 4 is negative 12r. Okay, these two go away. Negative negative makes this a plus 12. So negative 14 plus 12 is going to get you to negative 2r. Okay, now you do your pull down here. Okay, r times what gives you negative 2r? And that would be negative 2. Negative 2 times r is negative 2r. Subtraction sign in parentheses. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. Close the parenthesis. These two always disappear. So now it's 8 minus 8, which is 0. So again, no remainder. Alright, so your final answer is 3r squared. Should have put a plus sign there. Plus 3r. Minus 2. That's your final answer. Okay, synthetic. See if you can do it. Pause for a sec. See if you can do it. Okay, let's see how quickly we can do this one. Okay, ready? Here we go. Take the negative 4. It's going to become a 4. 3, negative 9, negative 14, 8. Pull this one straight down. This is an addition, so there's a 3 there. 3 times 4 is 12. Negative 9 plus 12 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Negative 14 plus 12 is negative 2. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 minus 8 is going to be 0, so there's no remainder. So you have 3. The degree is a third degree, so that means your answer is going to be 1 less than that. It's going to be second degree, 3r squared, plus, now you take 1 off of that, it's 3r, minus the 2 doesn't have any r next to it, and there's your answer. Same as you got there, okay? So develop some speed, but be accurate. It's more important to be accurate. All right, so what I'm leaving for you to do are 5 and 6. So I'll write U and U. All right, and then what we said we're going to do after we've done 1 through 6 is we're going to go to 11 through 14. I'm going to do 11 and 12. You're going to do 13 and 14. They're not much different than what we did here, just a slight difference, okay? So you're doing 5 and you are doing 6. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so here's 11. Looks like all the others, right? There's just going to be a difference that this one's going to have a remainder. All right, so let's get going on this. Okay, check, be sure you copied the problem down correctly. Now, x divided into x to the third. What do I have to multiply x by to get x to the third? We've already done this a couple of times. It's going to have to be x squared, and you put it in the x squared column here. All these are x squared straight down there. So x squared times x is going to give you x to the third. Subtract, open a parenthesis, and x squared times negative 2 is going to be negative 2x squared. Okay, so these two disappear. And then you have a negative negative is a positive, so that turns it into a plus 2x squared. So 3x squared plus 2x squared is going to be 5x squared. All right, now you do a pull down, negative 15x, okay, and then you repeat the process, you divide. X into 5x squared. So what do you have to multiply x by to get 5x squared? Well, it's going to have to be a 5, and then another x. X times x is x squared. Put our negative sign there in a parenthesis. So 5x times x is 5x squared. And I put the negative sign in the parenthesis in the wrong place. So erase that. Okay, it goes down here. So that's a parenthesis there. Negative 5x squared. And then 5x times negative 2 is negative 10x. Okay, 5x squared minus 5x squared is nothing. It goes away. Okay, negative negative is going to make it a positive 10, so negative 15 plus 10 gets you to negative 5. Okay, so that's our subtraction step. And now we need to do the final pull down right here. That's going to be plus 7. And now we're ready to start all over. X times what gives you negative 5x? Well, it would have to be negative 5. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Okay, now we're going to put our parenthesis and our subtraction sign there. And then negative 5 times negative 2 is plus 10. So negative 5x and the negative negative makes us plus 5x. Negative 5x plus 5x, it disappears. It always does. And 7 minus 10. So be careful. 7 minus 10 is going to be negative 3. Okay, and we're at the end of the problem because we don't have anything else to pull down. So notice this time we did get a remainder. So the way you write a remainder is really simple. It's the remainder over the divisor. That's all you do. So you put it up here next to the answer. It's actually part of the answer. It's plus negative 3 over x minus 2. And anytime I have two math signs next to each other like that, I like to put one in parentheses like that. So you get your answer, then it's plus this number over the divisor. And that's all there is to a remainder. Okay? That's it. All right, let's do synthetic division. So we have a -2 here. We're going to turn that into a +2. And write all the coefficients here. We're going to pull the first one down. You get a 1. 2 times 1 is 2. This is a plus sign. Put a big plus sign there. So 3 plus 2 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. -15 plus 10 is -5. 2 times -5 is -10. And 7 plus -10, or 7 minus 10, is -3. Okay, again, it was a cubic, so our answer is going to start with an x to the squared. It goes down 1 from that. So it's going to be 1x squared. I'll just lightly write the 1 because you don't need to write it because of coefficient. Okay, then the next is going to be the x term, so it's plus 5x. And finally the 5 at the end, minus 5. Okay, so at this point you got to just know, how do I get the remainder? You take that number that you came up with, that last number, and you got to go back to your original equation, put it over the divisor, which is x minus 2. So I'm going to write plus -3 over x minus 2. And you just have to go reach back and get this again and put it over that. So there's your answer, same as this one over here. Okay? All right, let's do number 12 together. Again, don't hesitate to pause the video, watch a problem a second, a third time. Not everything comes through the first time. So be sure you're doing what you need to do to learn this, okay? All right, so k minus 3 here. Okay, there we go. So what do I have to multiply k by to get k to the third? I think this is about the 4th time we've done this. So I have to multiply it by k squared. K squared times k will give us k to the third, so I'm going to put that right here. Subtraction, open the parenthesis. K squared times -3 is -3k squared. Now we do our subtract step. This goes away. And 5 minus -3, so minus -3 is +3, so 5 plus 3 is 8k squared. So that's our subtraction step. And then we pull down the next term, which is minus 18k. And now we repeat the process. Go back to divide. K, what do you have to multiply k by to get 8k squared? Well, you've got to multiply it by an 8 and by another k. So 8k times k is 8k squared. So I'm going to write that here. And 8k times -3 is -24k. All right, and so now these two disappear, and then this becomes minus negative, so positive 24. So -18 plus 24 is going to get you to positive 6k. All right, and then the final pull down is right here. That's going to be minus 11. What do you multiply k by to get 6k? You multiply by 6. So plus 6. 6 times k is 6k. Subtraction sign, open parenthesis. 6 times -3 is -18. So now you subtract. These two go away. And this becomes negative becomes positive 18. So -11 plus 18 is going to be positive 7. And that's your remainder. So we simply come up here and put a plus sign, 7 over the divisor, k minus 3. And put that in parentheses. This is always, to me, a good idea. Okay, and that's the answer to that problem, this up here. Let's do it synthetically. So -3 here becomes positive 3. Upside down division bracket. You've got a 1, 5, negative 18, negative 11. First number simply gets pulled straight down to make that a 1. 3 times 1 is 3. And this is a plus, an addition, so 5 plus 3 is 8. 3 times 8 is 24. Negative 18 plus 24 is positive 6. 3 times 6 is 18. Negative 11 plus 18 is going to be positive 7. Again, just as all the problems so far have been, that's a cubic there. So that means our first term is going to be a k squared for our answer. There's the first coefficient. You can write it if you want. 1k squared, plus 8k, plus 6, plus, and the last one, and when you do synthetic, is always your remainder. Okay, for the first 4 problems we did, it was a 0. Now it's a 7. So it's 7, and then you got to go back and find your divisor. There it is right there, k minus 3, so over k minus 3, put it in parentheses, and there you go, your answers match up. All right, so that takes care of doing it with a remainder. 11 and 12 had a remainder. So U problems are 13 and 14. Okay, U means I'm not going to do it, but if you come to tutoring, I'll always do any problem with you, okay, in tutoring. All right, so those are the U problems. So that takes care of this assignment. Everything else is extra credit. I offer generous extra credit, but it's up to you whether you feel like you need to do them. I'm hoping that by doing this many problems, especially if you've actually tried on the ones that I just did and didn't just copy them, that you kind of get how to do these by now. But anyway, come to tutoring if you need help, and that's it. I'll see you in class next week.